Welcome back. Kyla, Jay, Lisa, David, Francia. So glad to have you here. Thank you for that beautiful music. It's so beautiful, and we hold your friend's family in our heart this day because that's a tough loss. A mother is a tough loss. Yes, great. Well, let us prepare ourselves. If you will put your hand over your eyes, I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. And I can see you at home if you're doing this. Put your hand over your ears if I can hear the spiritual truth today. And then put your hand over your heart and just extend out your arms. I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that God can only do for us what God can do through us. Now, I say that so often that I have a concern. I have a concern that you're not going to be listening, that you're going to reduce it to a soundbite. You know, spiritual soundbites are those things that we think we know. And we kind of know. But once we really integrate them into our heart, that's when they begin to work in our lives. God can only do for us what God can do through us. You know, if you're waiting for God or one of God's children, like Jesus or Lao Tzu or Ernest Holmes, or your husband or your wife to do it for you, I suggest you stop waiting. It's not going to happen. God can only do for us what God can do through us. Now, studying successful people like Jesus and Lao Tzu and Buddha and Ernest Holmes and a host of others can help us. But we will have to let God come through us to know our success. Every time you smile at a stranger who you can see is hurting, you've just been a vehicle for God, and you will feel good. Every time you let a mean-spirited remark pass without jumping in and fighting with that person, you've just allowed God to work through you. Every time you shared your bounty, when it even didn't look like you might have enough for yourself to cover your needs, but you shared anyway, you've just let God work through you. Every time you stared down your fear of failure and stepped out in faith on a project or an idea that you knew was a good one, you've just allowed God to work through you. Every time you stood up for yourself in face of being put down by somebody who is supposed to love you, you've just allowed God to work through you. Every time you voiced outrage over police shooting an innocent woman in her bed while she was asleep 8 times. Every time you've refused to stay silent over a young man being shot in the back 7 times without appropriate consequence, you have just allowed God to work through you. God can only do for us what God can do through us. We're in week 2 of a little 3-week sermon on the basics of science of mind. Science of mind is a philosophy, and CSA is a Science of Mind church. We're looking at the first 4 chapters in this 3-week series, which holds an unimaginable freedom for us. A church that believes together we can loosen what the great poet Browning called the imprisoned splendor. Ernest Holmes called that imprisoned splendor a power for good in the universe that we can use. See, at CSA, we don't believe most of us are living troubled lives because of any unwillingness to cooperate with God or with spiritual principles. Sure, some of us are lazy. We know the way the principle works. Sometimes we just get caught up in wanting to have a shortcut. I want to lose weight, but I don't want to stop eating cookies. Some people want to be millionaires, and they know hoarding is not in obedience or cooperation to the way of God, or cooperating with the law of reciprocity. They just can't help themselves. They've fallen into that false belief that there's a shortcut to understanding and cooperating with spiritual truth. Or maybe they think there's a God in the sky who won't notice when they're hoarding. Or maybe they think a rich person who is a hoarder and they see one and mistakenly believe that person is abundant. That person might have money now, but that person is not abundant. Spiritual principle demands full cooperation. We can't just pick and choose what we want to do and leave the rest. If you want full bliss, We have to cooperate with all of it. No exceptions, no passes. See, I think most of us live lives of challenges, and, challenges is kind of the churchy word for you can't pay your bills easily. You can't talk with your beloved for more than 10 minutes without throwing a dig or two at them. You can't get to the gym or stay on your new food plan. We live lives of challenges because we don't understand spiritual principle and how it works. Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, puts it this way: all human misery is a result of ignorance, and only knowledge will relieve this misery and its effect. And isn't that what happened in D.C. last week? Ignorance overshot the spiritual principle of oneness, the spiritual principle of there's no us and no them. Last week, we reminded ourselves that it is a God, and not only a God that's not only in the sky. It's in the hearts and minds of every being on this planet. Nobody gets left out. God is in the hearts and minds of people in jails, people in corporate centers, ex-husbands, ex-wives, ex-partners, that teenager who's giving you fits. God is everywhere. Spiritual principle is the name we give God's operating system. We worship and praise the essence of God. And we understand that we can't know all of God. It's too vast, too omniscient. You and I, we're okay in living in the mystery and having our hearts touched by God's love. But we can and we must know God's operating system. Those truths we call spiritual principles because they are the pathway to our bliss. They're the pathway to our success in every area of our life. And this spiritual principle, the one we're talking about today, that part of God's operating system that said God can only do for us what God can do through us, must be understood before we can feel the blessings that are meant for us. So here's the thing. If you're taking notes this morning, here's the note to take. God's done God's job, and the table is full before you. If you want or need help with self-confidence it's on the table. If you need creativity to get over a rough spot on a project, it's on the table. If you need perseverance to keep going, to understand that delay is not denial, it's on the table. It's all unformed until you form it with your mind. But it's always there. Well, Reverend Georgia, if that's true, what keeps it from showing up in form to bless my life? The answer is actually irritating, but it's simple. It's our belief system. Now, I want to be careful here because, as I say frequently, this is powerful medicine. And if it's used incorrectly, it can cause even greater harm to you than if you never tuned in this morning. If you are having trouble manifesting your needs and your desires, and you feel shame, you're missing the mark. You have beliefs inside of you that are simply there because of where you grew up and with whom you grew up. You inherited their limited thinking. Some version of, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not pretty. I'm not handsome. I'm not healthy enough. Those can often be nothing more than inherited beliefs. Now, I could stand here and say those thoughts are not your fault, and I'd be right. But looking at someone to blame is not going to bring you success. What do you want more? Blessing or somebody to be mad at? Don't waste your time on it. Turn your inheritance back. Just give it back. You don't have to accept it. How will I know when I'm still spending my inheritance? By what your inheritance is purchasing. If what's showing up in your life is poverty, is loneliness, is always feeling stuck, can't catch a break, never get enough, you may be working off one of your ancestors' thoughts. Here are a few frequently inherited thoughts. I'm too old. Well, somebody, a man who's going to be called, perhaps by some, the most powerful man in the world, in a couple of days is 78 years old. Well, another one is I didn't go to college. Ernest Holmes didn't go to college. He's changed millions of people's lives by relying on divine intelligence. Another one is I have a bad prognosis. Remember this. Prognosis is numbers. They're a result of what most people are experiencing. Don't be most people. And the one I hear the most, I had a really bad childhood. We aren't children anymore, and we need to put away childish things now. And when I say that, I don't mean it shouldn't have happened to you. If you were mistreated in any way as a child, it was wrong. You should have been treated as the perfect child that you are. But here's the hard news. The only reason it's interfering with your success and happiness right now is because you're letting it. Now, I'm not suggesting that you stuff it. We have practitioners here who can help you put this in spiritual perspective. If you haven't taken foundations yet, please sign up. We've moved it back to February 8th to give more people to sign up. Reverend Devine is a master teacher, and this is the Spiritual Principles 101 class. I want everybody to take it so we can begin to work with these powerful spiritual principles. Begin to allow the possibility that every human experience you ever had is in service to your journey. Even those you've had as children. That's where those inherited thoughts began to take root. I don't know what your inherited thoughts are. Maybe they're the common ones and maybe they're unique, although I doubt it. The point is you've got to unhook them from the door that's locking God out, locking your good out. In this chapter 2 called The Way It Works, Holmes asks this question: how much good can one demonstrate? And he answers it by saying this: how much good can you see? How much good can you accept? How much can you find in our mind that is no longer listening to cynicism, skepticism, doubt, denials? Whatever that is, that's how much you can have. And we're at choice every single day. And that may take training to expand your mind. Oliver Wendell Holmes says one's mind, once stretched by a new idea, never regains its original dimensions. Great people who are enjoying success start first seeing it in their mind. Today, see yourself free of worry about your aging parents who are beginning to sign shows of confusion. Today, see yourself prosperous. Today, see yourself relating to others easily and effortlessly, always knowing what to say and never being tongue-tied. Is that all I have to do? No, but it's the first step. It's a step that cannot be sidestepped. Ernest Holmes in this chapter wrote, you can only have as much good as you can embrace. Once you've taken this step that says, I'm no longer asking for a God for the stuff. I'm creating a field in my mind that knows what I want and accepts that God has done God's job and provided all the fixings for what I want. Spiritual work is not magic. It's scientific. God doesn't work in miracles. God works in deliverables. You send out love, you'll get love back. You send out money, you'll get money back. You send out peace, you will get peace back. You send out respect, you will get respect back. Now here's an important key in getting back. We have to widen our circle of acceptance. You don't get to say where it comes from. The principle is this: send love out, love comes back. Now look around. It may not come back from where you want it. It may come from a totally unexpected place. God can only do for us what God can do through us. Keep your eye peeled this week for God who God might be using to bless you. It may come from the most unlikely place. And when you get that blessing, let's keep it moving. Let's stir Sacramento up. Let's take this message into prayer, knowing that there's only one power. It's that power for love and the power for God, the power for good. It's a miraculous power, and everybody gets to use it. Nobody gets left out. We have to work hard to hate. Love just comes naturally if we allow it. I give thanks for the Great One. I release this word into the law, and together we say, and so it is. Amen.